Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Wine and Web3. I'm your host, Jana, certified wine geek and co-founder of dVIN Labs. So today we're digging into one of the most exciting things we've ever built at the intersection of wine and Web3. It's called Bacchus, our in-house AI wine strategist. So what started as a tool to help us scale the tokenization of wine has quickly evolved into something much, much bigger. An intelligent assistant that is changing how wine lovers, collectors, sommeliers, and investors interact with the $1 trillion wine asset class. This episode was recorded live as part of our Wine Investment and Enjoyment series, a virtual event we host regularly to explore what's next in wine investing, culture, and technology. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. Each episode kicks off with a TLDR, so even if you don't catch the full hour, you will still walk away smarter in the first few minutes. And I keep seeing this in my background, and it's really distracting. So if you're watching this on YouTube or Substack and you're wondering about the lurking zebra here, this is what happens when I drink wine at a flea market. So, but the zebra stays, and we're going to just move on. Okay. TLDR. So Bacchus was trained on one of the most deeply curated and also sommelier-informed wine databases anywhere. We've been building it for over a year with input from top experts around the world. Why? Because wine data is a mess. If you think that it's just Lafite 2016, you would quickly realize that there are actually 14 ways to write that, and Curated de Lafite, for example, is a totally different wine. So that foundational work that we've been doing and all of this proprietary data that we've been building up is actually what makes Bacchus really, really different. Right now, he's being tested in 2 early beta tools, and that's really what we're going to be digging into in this episode. So the first tool that's in beta right now is the Wine List Analyzer. This is a game changer. If you need a party trick when you go out to eat with someone that you're trying to impress, like a boss, or maybe it's a first date, this is your tool. Okay, this is anyone's tool who's going out to eat and wants to know, what's the best wine on the list to order based on whatever value, critic score, whatever. This actually is a tool that you take a picture of a wine list at a restaurant, you upload it to Bacchus on Telegram, and it scans the list, flags underpriced bottles, standout vintages, hidden gems, etc. Total game changer. Very, very cool. The second tool that is in beta right now is the Portfolio Optimizer. This is a game changer for collectors and investors, and this is actually going to help you understand what bottles are gaining value in your portfolio, what you should be drinking now, which ones are aging out, what you should consider buying, selling, you get it. But this is really just the start, right? We're building toward a future where Bacchus is actually going to be fully autonomous. This is an AI capable of rebalancing your wine portfolio, reacting to market shifts, and even trading tokenized wine assets on your behalf, right? We're talking about Bacchus having a wallet address, a budget, your risk profile, and he's just going to go out there and make the trades for you if that's what you desire. So you can think of Bacchus as kind of the layer that connects your taste to your trading strategy. Very, very cool. Okay, so let's get into it. Joining me today, we have Adnane, who is dVIN's lead engineer and the architect behind Bacchus AI. And we also have Paul Hammond, longtime friend and advisor to dVIN, also one of the key minds shaping Bacchus's wine intelligence. So let's get into it. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Jana, co-founder of dVIN Labs. We are building the infrastructure to tokenize and trade wine as an investable asset class. So we're talking about unlocking billions in trapped capital from one of the world's notoriously illiquid markets. For those of you who don't know, the wine asset class is a $1 trillion asset class. It's a pretty big, impressive number. Unfortunately, most of the value sits idle in cellars and bonded warehouses. So at dVIN, we're transforming those bottles into liquid, wine. I know. I'm hilarious. You'll get used to it. Into liquid tradable assets, bringing transparency, price discovery, and 24/7 market access to a space that has historically been closed off to all but few. Powering that transformation, and what we're here to talk about today, is Bacchus, our AI wine strategist, built to help anyone from seasoned investors to just the wine curious navigate the market like a pro. So today we're diving into how Bacchus came to life, what he can do right now, and where he's going, from navigating wine lists to one day managing your wine trades. Joining me today, we've got Adnane, our lead engineer and data architect. Adnane has led the development of Bacchus from day one. He trained and fine-tuned the models, built the swarm of agents behind the scenes, and basically gave Bacchus his brain. So nice to have you here, Adnane. We're also
Thanks.
joined by Paul Hammond, advisor to dVIN, wine strategist, and a key voice in shaping Bacchus's wine intelligence. Paul brings deep expertise across the wine world, from trading and investment to education and tech, and has played a crucial role in helping ensure that Bacchus thinks like a real wine insider, not just an AI. All right. Hi, guys. How you doing?
Good, thank you.
Good.
How did I do with your intros? Did I miss anything?
No, you're pretty good with it, actually. Thanks.
Thanks. I don't want to undersell you guys. I'm working with the pros here today. So, all right. Well, let's kick things off with the origin story, because Bacchus wasn't something that we actually dreamt up originally just to have, a flashy AI product, if you will. It actually came out of a real problem that we had at dVIN. And that problem was scaling the creation of digital corks. So when we actually started tokenizing wine, we realized how insanely manual the process was. Every single bottle needed a deep set of structured data, everything from region, vintage, producer, critic scores, storage details, auction comps, and it was taking hours per wine. So it wasn't just about finding the data, it was also about cleaning it, reconciling it, and making sure it actually meant the right thing. Paul, I know you come very much from a wine background, so you'll understand that wine data is not always straightforward. It doesn't always look the same. For example, you might have Lafite, and one source might be calling it Lafite 2016. Another might list the full name, vintage, and bottle size. And then, there's Lafite's second wine, Curated de Lafite, which is totally different wine. And humans might miss that distinction, or worse, treat them as the same thing. So Bacchus had to be smart enough to know the difference and fast enough to do it thousands of times a day. So Adnane, you led that build. What were some of the early challenges that we faced in trying to train Bacchus to understand wine data? And how did you go about solving them?
So basically, one of the challenges that we faced firsthand was getting access to that data about, like, for example, wine and its metadata, like uh, alcohol levels, like levels of acidity, if it's like oak, barrels, etc. So that was like the first challenge that we had encountered, and basically the idea to bypass this obstacle was to create like an AI that would be able to gather data around all the web, fact check that data, and then how we say assign these metadata to like a certain type of wine, an input wine, whatever it is. Like you talked about Lafitte or Chachado Margaux, whatever it is, and then that data was also back approved, like by how do we say approved as a final step with sommeliers that were like doing the initial wine metadata gathering, the initial process that took like hours and hours. So basically the idea was that we needed to shorten the time that it took to like tokenize a bottle of wine, and that meant first of all getting that metadata, so shorten that amount of time that it took. And at second in the second aspect was to generate the digital cork related to that wine, and that meant like actually identifying the wine and getting the appropriate bottle of the wine and putting it into a certain, how do we say, visual concepts. And basically that was the second challenge that we had to face. But also with the new, how do you say, technology and what AI has been able to do like this last couple of years, and the new features that have been brought in, such as like vision recognition, image labeling, or even image description also. So we have been able like to gather around all these capabilities to construct like a digital core creation system that will first of all get you the correct bottle in the digital cork with the visual concept of your liking, and also get you like the most correct metadata that is possible to find in web 2 basically.
Yeah, it was so wild to see how quick Bacchus was starting to recognize patterns across the different sources and like resolving naming conflicts and filling in missing metadata and standardizing formats and way faster than we could ever do it manually.
I think the sommeliers played a very big role in that aspect, because they helped us like optimize the model via a feedback system that we have made in place with them, that helped us improve the models and interpret like the errors that it was making at the beginning, and fine tune it even more on the given tasks. Yeah.
Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, we've got a wicked team of SOMs behind dVIN. So you'll see them if you're in any of our community chats. You'll be able to see them in there. They're always putting in really good wine content and engaging with the community. They have been really a backbone to this, as Adnan says, like really helping us make sure that the data that we have is correct, and just like helping to steer it in the right direction and proofing everything. I mean, it's been hours and hours and hours over years to really make sure that was all working before we did the big pass over yet. Once we had all of that figured out, like, because it's all figured out right now, Adnan, all perfected. Once we had that, the next question kind of became, what else could Bacchus do, right? So it was like, okay, we need something to automate all these digital corks. And that's the original reason why we built it. But then it was like, whoa, this is actually really interesting to see the potential. So, Paul, you've worked across every part of the fine wine value chain, from auctions to investments, education, and advisory. You've got this super rare blend of deep wine knowledge and real AI literacy. So when you first saw Bacchus working behind the scenes, what clicked for you about its potential?
Well, the wine industry is opaque, it's fragmented, it's always been slow to modernize. And everything's done, as you were saying, on spreadsheets, PDFs, restaurant lists and auction results, they're all the same way. And I built a fine wine merchant, which I exited, like a couple of fine wine merchants. And the largest amount of work was done doing things that should be automated and could be automated. What couldn't be automated up until the advent of what Adnan was saying, with like this whole new frontier of AI and deep learning. And for the longest time, any part of the wine industry was an Excel spreadsheet, whether you were buying wine for a restaurant or for a merchant, or as a private client you were buying wine. You had to go through and you have to like compare different wine lists and different prices. And as you're saying, the names aren't the same, and so you can't really do fuzzy lookups in Excel or anything like that. So a lot of my old business was spent with buyers looking at spreadsheets, trying to rationalize them, private clients continuously wanting updates on what they'd bought, and that price discovery really wasn't possible because there are some attempts at it. Adnan, you can jump in here when like you feel like I'm going off piece with it. But I was thinking about machine learning, and because machine learning does deal so well with non-linear and high-dimensional data, it's like perfect for this complexity. Like this continuous learning, pattern recognition you were talking about allows us to like look at data flows, analyze them, and repetition. For example, if you're pricing a portfolio, you're pricing a wine list, you might have your real data source, which might be wine search or another restaurant or whatever it is. You'd have to look up, this is the price of this wine, this is what I paid for it, this is the market price, and you have to do that one by one. Well, machine learning is like that's the very problem that it solves. There's obviously several ways that you can do this, but in one iteration of doing this, you can show it the examples and it can group them, cluster them, and therefore make its own decisions on an ongoing basis, learn. You can then fit the model and you can do certain propagations. And then at the back end of it, you get a machine that knows how to price faster than humans, right? And you only have to train it. And when you've got someone like Adnan who can do this so rapidly, the progress of this has been amazing. And so that price discovery across the whole thing revolutionizes instantly the industry. For example, what I won't jump ahead because we can do this in stages, but ultimately what it can do is it can give you real time pricing and rationalize the market and trends in a way that would take an army of people weeks to do. Bacchus can do almost instantly. So for me, it's like a new frontier. It's the advent of a new time in the wine industry.
It's so exciting. It's so fascinating, and it's happening so quickly. I mean, we've been building this for, I say we, really Adnan has been building this with, of course, with you, Paul, as a major help. It's been a year, right? And it's just
Yeah.
the what we've accomplished so far is incredible. So
Yeah.
very impressed. So
Do you
basically,
remember? Do you remember when? Sorry to interrupt, cut across you. Do you remember when we were talking about, because obviously dVIN crosses two worlds. It crosses the Web3 blockchain world and it crosses the fine wine traditional world. And so Adnan's obviously like come at it from one angle, you come at it from another angle, and then we've spoken to many people. But we were thinking about how to appeal to the Web3 blockchain sort of investor group individuals. And we had like, what was it? I think it was a 1 day meeting in Barcelona. And from the back of it, we were like, we talked to Adnan, we got back and we said, can we flip an AI into someone that provides alpha on the wine market? And it was honestly, well, I think 4 weeks later he'd got a version that could do it. And what blew my mind was how quickly that concept could be put into reality.
yeah. So basically, what started as a tool to speed up a very specific part of our dVIN protocol process has now become an intelligence layer powering a completely new way of engaging with the wine market. So whether you're a drinker or a collector, and I really want to emphasize anyone, drinker, collector, investor, wine curious, Bacchus AI is actually, he's really for everyone. He's here to help you make smarter moves and start to understand wine, especially if you're a wine novice. You know, he's kind of here to help you start to understand wine as an asset class and, you know, how to potentially make some money on the secondary, right? So it's pretty interesting.
I mean, if you think about it, it's like Bacchus is to represent it, like we try to represent a wine ecosystem, like with the Bacchus agent swarm. So to explain it like a little bit much better, so there is not just Bacchus working there. There are like a bunch of, let's say, minion agents that Bacchus puts to work in order like to get you like the information that you're looking for. Whether that, for example, it's investment analysis or portfolio analysis, or like getting you like normal information about wine, such as tasting notes or food pairings, or even analyzing wine menus or wine image bottles. And basically, when you put out a request, whatever that is, Bacchus figure out which AI agent he will use. So I'll give you an example. For example, we have a wine searcher agent that will go and search the web, for example, for trends about that wine, for to get like the market sentiment in users, example in forums like Reddit or Decanter, like and stuff like that. And we will have also another agent that will go and try to analyze the financial stuff of this wine and try to get you the best value for price, and see like how this wine, for example, his price has evolved or his critic scores have evolved, to try to measure like production versus supply, all that stuff. And also you can find like a wine strategic agent that will be most likely reserved for much more like advanced queries, like analyzing wines in terms of investment potential, and also like an agent specialized to analyzing images, like to that's sort of agent that will just like get the images, do the whole process of extraction wine names, or yeah, extraction the wine names from the images and passing them through to the other agent that will like get the, how do we say, the information about these wines. So try to imagine it like a bit of a network between multiple AIs that's trying to figure out how to answer your queries the best way possible. Yeah. Or a consulting wine company, basically. Yeah.
To give an example of that, if you're looking for a Burgundy producer, or you're someone investing in wine or wanting to drink wine, or whatever variant of wanting to get value in wine, any one of the combination of this swarm can ultimately look at the price of a wine or a vertical of that particular producer and the quality in terms of the output of what critic scores it's getting, and it can rate those so that you can instantly see which wines in each region are the most undervalued. And I'll give you another example. The fine wine industry is self-fulfilling in the sense that once a lot of people start viewing a particular producer in a region as exceptional, it tends to push prices and they become more and more sought after. So what this can do, which is what Adnan was talking there about, was it can give you a head start, or even if you're a wine professional, it can tell you which producers you should be going to see and taste, because it's got access to all of the information out on the internet. And other industries are doing this. So it's really great that we can start doing it in wine. But for example, you can have a Burgundian producer, for example, Arnaud Le 4 years ago, started getting an enormous groundswell, and it went up in price by a factor of 10 within 18 months, simply because the global demand for that particular limited producer went through the roof, because everybody was discussing it on forums, because everybody started realizing it was undervalued relative to the winemaker and everything else. So what Bacchus can do, and what Adnan's trained it to do, is ultimately it can go and look at where suddenly someone's talking about a new producer, and you can get a head start, taste it, drink it, get ahead of the curve. And or you can look at particularly reasonably well-known wine producers, and you can say, right, well, another thing that it can do, and it's training to do at the moment, is scan wine lists, for example, and it will be able to look at the leading wine lists in the world. And when a particular wine starts appearing more on those wine lists, it can compare how much or how many bottles it has on a particular wine list versus how much it's stocked in the market. So you can have a real sense of demand versus supply. So you can, as any individual professional or anyone who loves wine, can ultimately get access to information in such a quick format that was never possible. The use case for it's really quite incredible.
So do you think this levels the playing field or actually raises the game for everyone?
Levels the playing field, I think.
Interesting.
I think technology does that generally. I think it generally, when it's used correctly, gives more people more information, access to greater data. That's what's happened with financial markets. You couldn't trade. It was very hard to trade equities a decade ago on your own because you didn't have access to the information. Well, that's what we're giving the industry here.
Yeah, I like that. Great comparison. Okay, so we're not stopping at analysis. We touched a little bit already on the fact that Bacchus is soon going to plug directly. Well, I don't know if we came right out and said this, but Bacchus will soon plug directly into user portfolios inside the dVIN app. So any of you watching this who are unaware that dVIN has an app, we have had an app for a long time. We're rebuilding it right now. So when that app comes back on and you go to the chat feature, that you'll be talking to Bacchus. And Bacchus will actually soon plug directly into your portfolio, your digital seller. So he's not making suggestions, but he's actually monitoring your holdings and flagging opportunities in real time. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and what makes Bacchus, like, how do we say, able to do that also, like, is that he has access to multiple sources of data, that because like wine, like in domain of wine, like there's scarcity of data, like there's huge scarcity, like you can't find data anywhere. And what makes Bacchus like good is that like we've had the opportunity like to get like years of tokenization data like into Bacchus, and also like we've had like how do we say the opportunity also to have like sources of data like LiveX or even Wine Searcher that like make how do we say the aggregation of this data and its analysis pretty much how do we say not only scarce but good also because of the capabilities that we train Bacchus on via the improvement feedback loop or and the involving training of its capabilities.
Exactly. And imagine having a portfolio of wine, and that can be vast or it can be small. And it can be a portfolio for consumption, it can be a portfolio for investment. And those two things split. But if it's for investment, for example, you can plug it in, and Adnan's added, if you want to go into the bit more detail on this, Adnan, and the challenges, but he's adding memory capacities for it, which means ultimately you can give it your portfolio, it will remember it, and then you can train it to give you the information you want. So you can find, for example, if you've got a portfolio of Bordeaux in different vintages, it will definitely tell you when it's entered its drinking window, for example. But more importantly, it can give you market depth through sort of, you can use Bayesian models for this, or whatever kind of statistical models you want to use, but it can give you market depth, momentum, liquidity. It can tell you like, it can give you advice, obviously no financial advice at any point, but it can give you the data in real time and continuously to know what to buy, sell, and trade. And that doesn't exist anywhere. That's just like extraordinarily revolutionary to this market. Not to use hyperbole too much, but it really is exciting. But from a consumption perspective, if you've got a seller for drinking, not only can it allow you to like say, right, I never have to let a wine get too old or drink it too young, because the suite of AI can do all of that for you, and it can help you just rationalize what to drink and when. You can say like, it can even like help your habits. It can sort of, you can say like, oh, Adnan, you've been drinking a lot of this at the moment, like you've got more of this in your portfolio, like you're like depleting your Pinot Noir, go back to Barolo, or like, what do you have for dinner tonight? Like the whole process can be sort of driven by this.
Man, this is crazy. So basically what we're building is we're building toward a future where Bacchus manages tokenized wine portfolios, directly understanding your risk profile, monitoring global market shifts, and executing trades when the timing is right. We're talking future now, right? So the future of Bacchus. And I'll let you take this part on, Adnan. But the future of Bacchus trading for you, what does that look like?
Yeah, it looks like you're gonna have like your own Bacchus plugged in. Like you're gonna have your own, how we say, Bacchus that will be plugged in into your portfolio. He will know like what bottles do you have, what's your seller looks like. He will have your history like of what did you what did you do like of your transactions, and then also based on your interactions with him, he will try to build up an investment profile that you will be prompted to validate. And then if you'd like also, he can like start either providing you with notifications about real-time alpha related to your portfolio or optimizations, either in investment or like Paul talked about, like drinking windows, etc. Or he can like go ahead and start executing, like how do we say, trades based on thresholds that you can define for him, either on how do you say, numbers of bottles to trade, or the cap to not exceed, etc. So yeah, that's that.
So you'll set a budget and a strategy and give it your risk profile, and he'll do the rest.
But so Bacchus and dVIN don't want to. The business isn't in it buying and selling and trading wine, right? It's to facilitate others and empower them to do that. So like what Adnan's saying there, which I love, is like you can set rules and strategy preferences. It will then monitor market conditions for you, like give you price intelligence and trade matching. It can give you like eventually there can be some even integrate. Then nine, you can like say how far you think this is away, but like trade executions, it can be semi-automated, right? And it's an advised execution, which is kind of what you want to do there. You can do like rebalancing and harvesting, like intelligent arbitrage. Like this could be the model we add into the Pro, which is like you can have arbitrage between region, negotiants, wine merchants, like the whole thing. And it can, what's so exciting is like the AI and ML, like just
Even though like if you're like a wine, just a person that just loves wine, loves Web3, and you just like likes to drink good wine, etc., there will be also like a chance to maximize like your like gains with Bacchus. For example, let's say you're, I don't know, like you're a Pinot Noir drinker and there's a drinking window for the Pinot Noir. And like, I don't know, there is a month or 2 months. Like Bacchus can maximize like your portfolio, like in the, I don't know, 6 months, like to give you like some gains, etc. To give you also the possibility to buy your favorite, I don't know, bottles in their drinking times. So like, yeah, I mean, it's kind of, it's it's gonna adapt to whatever you want it to do.
that's cool. That's actually how I started my business. Like, because I observed fine wine as an asset class, and most people for like decades had been buying 2 or 3 cases of everything, and they would rise in value and they drink them for free. But this is even cooler. This is like that squared, right? So it helps you make gains that you can drink with.
Gains to drink with. Ooh, I think I might have to change the title of this podcast episode when it comes out. That's pretty compelling. Okay, so from a tech perspective, what does it take to make Bacchus autonomous? Like, how close are we to letting him trade real bottles on behalf of users?
So yeah, basically right now we'll still building like on the fine tuning on of multiple stuff on in Bacchus, but I think we're close enough to letting him do that stuff.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Okay, and then just thinking again about the wine asset class and how much, trapped liquidity there is, and how little wine is actually trading compared to the potential. When dVIN starts rolling out all of these partner marketplaces globally, and because the dVIN goal and what we're really working towards right now is building a global unified order book for wine. And so you put these two things together. And Paul, what do you think that means for wine as an asset class? If AI can trade it like a stock or a crypto token, what does that unlock for investors and for the market overall?
A huge amount of what I used to deal with, to give you sort of like a material case of this, was that people just had wine stored on paper or stored on spreadsheets, and didn't really know the full value. And because wine merchants are such that they work on fairly low margins and are busy wine merchanting, and none of the really portfolio areas that can get anywhere close to this level of sophistication, they would not know what the value of their wine is to trade it. So if you can tell people the value of their wine, like, you unlock all of that liquidity instantly. Anyone who has a wine portfolio, you can take a photo of your wine portfolio if it's written on a piece of paper, and Bacchus will put it into a digital format for you and price it like instantly. Or if you have it in Excel, it can do that in any format you want to use. Technology's gone to the point now where that can be, instantly brought on to a point where you have understanding of your value. And then not only can it do that, but these arbitrage models we were talking about can direct you to a marketplace, for example, if such a one goes live and people can trade, but also it can tell you the arbitrage in the market, where best to sell it. It can hold your hand throughout that process. So the answer to the question is, through price discovery and through giving people the means to understand what you couldn't get at before. And that happened in equities. There was a time where you had to call your broker to get a price, right? You wanted to trade an equity or whatever it was, you had to call a broker. Wine is like that. Like, people still pick up the phone and say, "Can you send me my value of my portfolio? What's it worth? What can you sell it for me today?" This unlocks all of that.
It's like the bridge between human taste and market opportunity. Okay, great. So helping people make decisions faster, smarter, with more confidence. Amazing. So before I do a little kind of a quick recap, and I want to make sure anybody who's watching this live, we've got one of the team monitoring the comments on X, and also on YouTube. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to put those in the comments, and we'll do our best to address them. But before I do a kind of a quick recap, is there anything else from either of you, Adnan or Paul, that you see that we might have missed in this chat?
Yeah, wine lists. So when you look at a wine list, unless you're an industry expert, and even then, you don't have you don't know what the market value is of any wine. Even the geekiest wine merchant in the world won't know. So what you can do is you can take a photo of your wine menu, because it has this pricing engine, it can tell you which wines have the biggest markup, right? And where the best value is on the list. That is golden, I think. And it can also tell you, like, in the restaurant you're in, like, how good a value. Like, it can tell you the restaurant list that you've taken here is an excellent representation of value in the industry, right? It can tell you where you're going, whether you're paying the right sums of money. Maybe you don't want to pay sometimes the right sums of money. Maybe you're in a 3 Michelin star restaurant and you're there to spend a lot. But then in that case, it can tell you which is the best value per dollar pound spent, and also it can tell you what the wines on the menu have the best value. Now, not everybody knows this, but people gravitate to great vintages in wine. But often great vintages are more expensive and they take longer to get round to. So often you have young great vintages on menus, and it's a waste of money to open them. So what this can help you do is, like, sidestep that problem. And for example, you can have a exceptional Bordeaux or Burgundy vintage that's an off vintage, but because it's 6, 7 years old, it will be drinking better than a prime vintage. And so what it can do is it can direct you into where the best value will be. And you could even, at some point, say to it, you could tell it in an audio, you could speak into with an audio file, or you can type in whatever you want. But you could say, these are the dishes that the dinner are having. What's the best match for the 8 people for a white and red wine across these dinner types? And it can instantly tell you, like, this is the best medium. Like as a regression, this wine would be the best medium for white and red. I mean, it's extraordinary what it can do. Adnan, do you want to say anything about that, or do you want to?
Let me actually just jump right in and quickly, and then Adnan, I'll pass it over to you to go into more detail. But basically, for anyone who's never used, we've had a kind of a wine AI out for a while. Originally it was called Wine Guy. You can still talk to Wine Guy on Telegram. If you go to Telegram, his handle is @WineGuyBot. And now that's been live for months and months now, and it's always getting smarter. So what Paul was saying a second ago about asking when you're in a restaurant, you can already click into Telegram and talk to Bacchus and say, or Wine Guy technically, and ask him, I'm in this restaurant, I'm in Sicily, or I'm wherever, and I'm, looking for a recommendation or a food pairing based on local dishes and local wines. Or you can literally ask it anything, and it will give you really, really, really solid pairing advice. And now what Paul's kind of has already led into is something that we've got in beta right now that I'll let Adnan elaborate on. But and I wanted to save this till the end because I want to invite people to a potential opportunity to get in on our beta program as we test this. So Adnan, do you want to talk to people about the wine list and wine portfolio analysis that we've got in testing right now?
Yeah, basically these two features, like first of all, the wine list upload. So you kind of upload like whatever image that contains wines, and basically the analysis will run through like one of the agent that takes care of like parsing images, getting information, extracting it from images, and then that information will be passed on the wine searcher agents and the price discovery agents that will scout the web and our, how do we say, connect to our data sources, either APIs, and try to figure out what's kind of the best value for price, like for each one of these wines. And yeah, based on your wine profile, what would be like the best wine? For example, if in the last 5 times you're like the kind of person that would choose a wine based on critic scores, so Bacchus will automatically like try to, like, how do we say, give you the best value in terms of critic scores. But yeah, I mean, everything is parametrable. You just gotta, how do we say, talk to him, and he will he will do the rest. And the other, yeah, functionality that's pretty much, yeah, being finalized right now is the investment portfolio. So you like upload whatever CSV or Excel, etc., into Bacchus, and he will like automatically analyze all the wines in terms of portfolio on a number of axes, like the winery or the producer's reputation, the strategic, how do we say, outplan, like for this wine, like in terms of the next few years or what the winery has announced, supply and production, like the forecast of the prices of the wine and your portfolio as a whole over the next 3 years, using machine learning algorithms for demand forecasting and price forecasting. And yeah, a bunch of other, how do we say, macroeconomic uh, access, and yeah, basically give you like the outlay of your investment portfolio and strategics recommendation. And based also on this, you'll start to get like also daily feeds on what's going on in the market based on that investment portfolio that you got, or any opportunity that you can leverage.
Awesome. Paul, is there anything you want to add to that? I know you've kind of been...
That was perfect.
Great. Okay. So, all right. So we've got Bacchus in beta for those two features. Right now, we've got some club members, we've got some sommeliers, and we've got some investors kind of testing that out. So if anybody is interested in getting into the beta and testing it for yourselves, I am taking bribes in Barolo. So just let me know, DM me. We'll see if I let you in. Kind of joking, kind of not. Okay. Anyways, moving on. So you can already go in and you can talk to Bacchus on Telegram. Right now, he's still named Wine Guy on Telegram. That will eventually change to, I think it'll be Bacchus everywhere, most likely. You can also check out Bacchus on X if you dare. He is a little bit sassy. And when I say a little, I mean he's very sassy at the moment. And we did that on purpose. So if you have gone in and taken a look at Bacchus, I think the account name is Bacchus _ dVIN. Have a look. He's got a bit of a potty mouth. I'm not going to lie. We did that on purpose at first. You know, the whole thing with Bacchus being on Telegram right now and delivering really great market insights, drawing interesting comparisons between investment grade wines and crypto, which is really cool. He is really, in this case, built for getting attention on crypto Twitter. And I think he's done a very good job of doing that. It's certainly not the end game for Bacchus. So I know we've had a couple people, I think my mom included, be like, he's really rough. Yeah, he does swear. So have a look. Very entertaining, really solid content. But yeah, he's got a bit of a potty mouth. So we are working on that. Adnan's trying to put up the guardrails, but it turns out we've created a monster. Right, Adnan?
Yeah.
Adnan loves it. He's like, we have these calls.
He's grown on me. Like, if
I know, it scares me. We have these weekly, I mean, we have daily AI calls, but our weekly stand up with the whole team is pretty entertaining because it's always like, okay, who's got what feedback on Bacchus? And I'm like, can he stop swearing so much? I feel like the mom in the group, but we're working on it. Have a look. It won't be this entertaining for too much longer, much to Adnan's chagrin. But yeah, so that's Bacchus on Telegram, Bacchus on X, sorry. Be sure to check that out. And then again, the beta version is very, very interesting and in test mode. So we'll be happy to announce when that all goes live. And otherwise, anything else you guys want to add? We've got to talk about we've got to talk about the potential pricing tiers or user tiers. So eventually there will be, this is our thinking. So, this is all alpha. We're all of these calls that we do, all of our kind of Wine Wednesdays and virtual events, we like to spill the alpha. So keep in mind that this is still kind of an ideation. But what we're thinking for Bacchus in the future is that there will be kind of a free version and a pro version. So Adnan, do you want to elaborate a little bit on the differences there?
Yeah, basically, like, there will be like a free version that will basically give you like basic, how we say, recommendations, etc. And then there will be like the pro version that will contain like the investment analysis and the improved capabilities of Bacchus.
Basically, I suppose free version, we're kind of thinking of it as like a sommelier AI plus Yahoo Finance kind of thing. And the idea here is to get people to really understand wine as an asset class with prices and price changes, and getting people to understand that they're able to trade it and how the secondary works and things like that. And then the pro version is kind of like the Bloomberg terminal for wine with deeper analysis and charts and portfolio management and more like deep research AI. Make sense? So that's what we're thinking. But yeah, obviously always happy to have everybody's feedback. We're still very much in build mode. So, but yeah, I think that's it. We're 45 minutes past the hour. I think we made good time. I'm sure we'll have more of these great conversations with Paul and Adnan in the future. Things are changing really fast and Bacchus is getting smarter and I'm afraid sassier all the time. So but yeah, really appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much for joining and for everybody watching on YouTube and X and listening to the podcast when that drops. Really, really appreciate you guys following the journey and don't be shy to reach out. Any comments, questions that you want to throw into the X or YouTube channels, feel free. We will do our best to get back to you all. And looking forward to the next one. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Adnan.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. That was great.
Thanks.
All right, that is it for this episode of Wine and Web3. Big thanks to Adnane and Paul for sharing how Bacchus is evolving from, a behind-the-scenes tool into the intelligence layer for wine as a digital asset. That is big stuff, guys. The beta is already impressive, and what's coming next? Even more exciting. So, if you want to catch these sessions live so that you can join the conversation and ask your own questions in real time, be sure to check out our Luma calendar. That's where we post all of our upcoming events, both virtual and IRL. Also, stay tuned for next week's episode because we've got something very, very special. I'm going to be joined by Jane Anson, author of Inside Bordeaux and one of the founding members of dVIN Labs. We're going to be talking about on-premier. So what's changing, what's worth paying attention to, and what's not. And it's going to be a must listen as well for anyone who's ever been curious about how the Bordeaux system works in general, and also how it could evolve. In the meantime, make sure you're following the show, smash that subscribe button, and drop a quick review if you're enjoying the pod. Remember, you can find us on socials everywhere under @dVIN Labs. That's DVIN Labs, LABS. And you can check out what we're building at dvinlabs.com. Until next time, stay curious and drink the good stuff. You know I'm talking to you, DGens. Cheers.